Today, 47 Republican senators signed an open letter to the leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran saying that they should keep in mind that any agreement that Iran might negotiate with President Obama on nuclear weapons could be undone by the next president 2 years from now. President Obama responded today, noting that extremists in Iran also oppose any deal limiting Iran's nuclear capacity.
I think it's somewhat ironic to see some members of Congress wanting to make common cause with the hardliners in Iran. It's an unusual coalition. I think what we're going to focus on right now is actually seeing whether we can get a deal or not. And once we do, then if we do, then we'll be able to make the case to the American people, and I'm confident we'll be able to implement it.
Iran's foreign minister responded today, telling Iran news agency, "In our view, this letter has no legal value and is mostly a propaganda ploy." Joining me now is Steve Clemons, Washington editor-at-large for The Atlantic and an MSNBC analyst. Steve, David Axelrod tweeted today a simple question. Is this letter, this kind of letter, unprecedented? And when I read that tweet, since I didn't know the answer, all I did was retweet it. What is the answer? I haven't been able to think of a direct precedent.
I've been looking at the tweets that have followed David's tweet as well, and some people have had some analogies that don't quite fit. Reagan and Iran-Contra and others, but nothing really stands up to this level of many major mainstream members of the United States Senate deciding that they're going to kneecap the President of the United States in a fragile strategic negotiation. I don't think it's ever happened before.
And Steve, they're not telling Iran anything that they didn't know.
No, I think that everyone knew what was going on in terms of Iran knew that there are hardliners in the United States that don't support this effort to make a strategic leap. There are many in Iran that don't support this either. What President Obama has been trying to tell us all is that if we make a deal with Iran and Khamenei, the supreme leader, cheats, we're on a track to war. If we don't get a deal, we're on a track to war. So the president's been trying to create a third option that allows us space to begin considering how Iran can prove itself, can demonstrate responsible behavior over a period of time, not just to us, but to Russia, China, France, Great Britain, and Germany. This isn't an Americanized problem. This is a global problem, lots of stakeholders. And Iran needs to prove itself in that process. And if that doesn't work out, then we'll be in the conflict. But that third option that the president has carved out is what Tom Cotton has been trying to undermine today.
And Howard Dean, Tom Cotton is trying to spread this to the presidential campaign. Let's listen to what he said about this.
I would encourage presidential candidates to join us. We already have 4 senators on the letter who are thinking about running for president. Rick Perry last week said that he wouldn't honor a deal that does not go through Congress. I've spoken privately with other presidential candidates who might join us. And for that matter, I'd encourage Hillary Clinton to join us in saying that Congress must approve any nuclear deal with Iran.
Howard.
I think this guy doesn't know what he's doing. How long has he been a senator? 2 months? And now he's, I mean, this is ridiculous. Yeah. It's really outrageous. And if Tom Cotton wasn't a veteran of the armed forces, I'd say this borders on treason. I've never heard of them doing this before. You don't undermine the President of the United States. It's never been done in the history of the country before. It's disrespectful, not just to the President Obama, it's disrespectful to the office of the presidency. You can disagree with the foreign policy. And in fact, I actually don't think that the Iranians are trustworthy, and I worry about a deal. But to do something like this, it just is breathtaking.
And Joy, the response from Iran saying this is just propaganda. I guess they actually can read these letters for what they are.
No, absolutely. And I think that there is this tendency among, I guess, these members of Congress to want to try to read Iran as this irrational country that is intent on attempting to create these nuclear weapons in order to engage in some sort of proactive war with Israel. Let's remember what we're talking about here. Israel is already a nuclear power. Iran would have to be completely irrational to attempt to engage in a nuclear showdown with Israel. That seems to me to be patently irrational. So the idea that they would want to make a deal is perfectly rational. And you have to ask these members of Congress. We cannot have 535 presidents of the United States. This is unheard of. During the Iraq War, you had Congress saying they needed to step back because they didn't want to impede the generals and the president from waging the war in Iraq. And now we have the same forces that so vigorously encouraged us to go into Iraq as the solution to the problems of the Middle East, I suppose, deciding that a war with Iran, 3 times the population, much more salient and whole of a country, that is a good idea. That's an even crazier idea than invading Iraq.
You know,
and so you have to ask these members of Congress, is that what they want?
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Jane Fonda going to Hanoi during the Vietnamese War. I mean, I just... You know, I
direct communication with the other side.
Yeah, I mean, who ever heard of doing something like this?
But Lawrence, there's another dimension here.
Let me get Harry in here for a second. Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah. I just want to say, look, these are highly polarizing times. You know, 80 to 90% of the Republican base disapproves of the job that President Obama is doing. That's even greater than when George W. Bush was president, how Democrats viewed him. And 75% plus of Republicans don't believe that we're being aggressive enough when it comes to the Iran negotiations. So this is completely playing to the base.
So you see a political calculation here based on exactly what the polls are telling them?
Of course. I mean, he's talking about presidential candidates jumping, and when else is it?
Yeah. Steve Clemens, go ahead.
Well, I think the thing that's also been missing in this discussion is that Tom Cotton gets the law wrong, as do all 46 other senators who joined him. The president is either engaging in what he's been saying is, which is an international arrangement with other parties that's non-binding, or he's engaging in an executive agreement which they can provide information to Congress, neither of which are subject to Senate approval. There is no treaty here. There is no negotiation. This isn't an arms control treaty. And so that's what's most astounding, is that 47 United States senators signed onto a piece of paper that actually doesn't apply at all to what the President of the United States is doing. And what he's doing is the same measures by which we protect U.S. forces stationed overseas with status of forces agreement. It's the same kind of deal we did with Russia in getting Syria to get rid of its chemical weapons. You didn't see Republican members saying we need to pass that deal with Russia. So the legal dimension of this I find fascinating, that so many lawmakers don't understand the law.
Can you imagine the Democrats doing this to a Republican's president?
No.
I mean, it's just...
No, they've had plenty of chances.
I mean, look, this is going to have no impact. I think you're right. It is playing to the base. But I'm somewhat angry about this, I have to say.
I mean, the question that has to be asked here is Barack Obama the president of the United States or not? There seem to be a certain percentage of people in this country, including apparently 47 members of Congress, who answer no, that they will not accept the results of 2 elections that were not sneaks into the White House. These were direct elections of the president of the United States. He is president. It's time for them to get over it and let him run foreign policy just the way every other president has done.
And Harry, there's a lot to be said for ignorance here. I mean, Senator Cotton, I'm sure, prior to today, has no idea, and it never crossed his mind what the precedent might be or not be for this.
Yeah, look, the fact of the matter is that most Americans aren't paying attention to this at all. So we're talking, you know, obliviousness all the way around. You know, I think it was even conservative Republicans, less than 50% of people are really paying attention to this, according to Pew. So the fact of the matter is it's a complete play to the base, whereby they're rousing people up who are perfectly fine with impeaching the president. I mean, look at this. The fact of the matter is, in the House of Representatives, you've had numerous measures where you've tried to impeach the president. Those haven't really gone anywhere. But in terms of playing to the base, they love doing this stuff.
But it's not trivial. I mean, the alternative is that if we can't reach a deal with Iran, is what they are looking for a war with Iran. That is not trivial.
My problem is not the merits. My problem is doing what they did, which I think is disloyal.
Absolutely.
I mean, you and I would probably disagree. I don't trust the Iranians at all.
No,
I don't know how you're going to do verification.
Go ahead, Steve.
I understand
Give us the last word on this.
But I think that it's very important to understand that the posturing that's going on and the disdain that these senators have for President Obama,
I agree.
They're putting that higher than one of the most important potential strategic leaps that really matters, not only to the United States, it's a deeply important security and strategic issue. It is not a trivial issue what we're doing with Iran. It's a remarkable thing that they're posturing that way, and that's where the question of patriotism and whether you stand by the nation comes in, and that's what I fault Democrats on, for not holding their colleagues to account on that measure.
That's going to have to be the last word on it tonight. We're going to take a break here. Thanks, Steve Clemens.